Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Unbroken Arrows podcast. Today, you get the Catherine show. Greg is somewhere. I don't even know where he is. I think he's in Nebraska with his daughter. But you also get Nate today. Say hi, Nate.
Hi.
Nate and I are going to talk a little bit about our week out west and Nate's pretty amazing deer that he shot. So that's the plan for today. It's also like 9:40 at night. So Nate's just going to have to deal with whatever questions I ask him because he's the one that wanted to do this so late.
Yeah, I guess it was my idea.
It was your idea. All right. Well, to start with, just tell me a little bit about the beginning of the week. I'm going to pretend like I wasn't there and I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions.
Well, see, you probably know what we did, or I guess how the week lines up a little bit better than I did.
You don't remember the timeline.
So we got up there, so we drove out to Rapid Friday and stayed with your Uncle Mark. It was good seeing all them and the girls. And then we probably got up to where we hunt. Probably, was it 3:30, 4 o'clock, I'm guessing?
Yeah, around then.
Right in there. Sighted in Mark's bow that he bought 2 years ago that he hasn't quite sighted in yet. Fixed a few of Catherine's mistakes.
Hey, now. It was I hadn't been there very long, so I was still learning the ropes.
So we went out Saturday night more of scouting, and we probably saw, 20 does. I mean, when you're hunting for a week, scouting is probably the best thing you can do for a couple days. So we at least had some intel that there was deer around there. And then we went out right away Sunday morning with Mark, and Rhiannon was along. We put a stock on an antelope, didn't we, Sunday morning?
Kind of. That's the one that you and I walked up with the decoy backwards.
Yeah, decoy was moonwalking before we realized it, and the goats had us pinned down.
They knew something wasn't quite right when the antelope was walking backwards.
Yeah. So then we ended up scouting pretty much a couple hours that morning. Mm-hmm. And then kind of called it quits, and I don't even really remember what we did that night, if we went and looked for deer that night.
Yeah, that night we ended up going back out to the west.
Yeah. So then Monday morning, I think we ended up driving around right away, didn't we? Mm-hmm. Maybe not.
No.
Maybe we hunted around there for a little bit.
No, Monday morning we went out west again, and that is when we saw the does and the antelope buck that was with the antelope doe.
So yeah, we did that for a couple hours.
We walked like 4 miles.
Probably 4 or 5 miles. Didn't really see anything worth necessarily going after there. So then we ended up covering miles in the truck, which I also think is a good thing, especially with week-long trips, is getting out, kind of getting inventory on some of the other public. And then we ended up checking one piece of public out that I had marked on maps, and there happened to be someone else there. So then still ended up driving around, and we ended up going probably 30 miles north, checking out some other public ground that we had some intel on of possibly there being quite a few antelope, which there was none.
There was nothing. All on private. Thank you for the great intel.
Yeah, there was. They were all on private. There was a lot of goats up there. They were just all on private.
I wanted to stop to ask a guy for permission, and Nate kiboshed that idea. I said, the worst thing they can do is say no. And he said, well...
Which we ended up getting on a pretty good spot and stock on some goats not too long after that. Mm-hmm. On some public. I got a little antsy. Otherwise I think it would have worked out perfect. But live and learn from that one. So that was a failed antelope stalk. And then on our way back to where we were staying, we located a field with, I don't even know if we know the number. We're guessing
you
close
keep
to
telling
20
people
bucks.
19. I'm like, where did you get that number?
I don't know if I ever counted. I can't remember.
I've thought
Close
about
to
that
20.
a couple times. I was like, he just made up a number and stuck with it.
Yeah, I remember.
It was 15 to 20.
Yeah, a lot of bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Few does. And so Catherine ended up texting our rancher that we stay with, and they happen to know them, and we got permission on the field, and we were good to go. So basically, I think both of us had agreed that that was pretty much what we were after. I think everything else kind of got put on the side burner for the most part, whether it was antelope or any other bucks, because there was one in there that was really nice. Well, there was probably 3 in there that were.
There was one really nice. There was 2 that were decent.
Yeah. So then Tuesday morning, we thought the best idea was to get up right at daybreak and drive by the field to see if the bucks were still in the alfalfa field or if they were
elsewhere.
bedding.
Yeah. And we literally did this in our pajamas, guys. Like, we woke up and got in the truck.
Yeah, we were both really tired. So let's wake up, get in the truck, drive by. And we really thought we were only going to be out there for a half hour and then we were going to go.
Yeah, then we were going to go into
chase
town.
Goats or something. But I really wanted to know where all the deer bedded for the most part. Because if they were going to bed next to the alfalfa field in the slough or ravine that's right there, you couldn't hunt them. There was no way of getting in. So it was probably 6:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And majority of the bucks bedded in one spot. And the big buck and 4 small bucks and probably 5 does went and bedded 3/4 of a mile away from the alfalfa field. And they didn't bed till probably 10 o'clock.
Yeah, they just kept moving around. We kept thinking they were going to go back, and then they'd go the other direction. And at one point, the does, we were parked, 500 yards away, 600 yards away? Maybe more.
Yeah, probably.
The does had pretty much walked all the way up the field to where they were in line with our truck. And we thought they were just going to keep going. And then they turned around and ran back to right where they were. So it was a lot of very random movement.
Which I was also kind of shocked that the big buck was with does.
Yeah, this early.
I don't know if it's just because the water was there and that's where he was going to. Because he definitely went to get a drink. So maybe that was just part of it. But I kind of figured most of those bucks would stay in the group. So then they all bedded probably 3/4 of a mile away from the alfalfa field. But one buck did bed next to the field in the waterway. So we knew going in that we'd probably have to wind bump him, which it worked perfectly. We were able to wind bump him in the complete opposite direction of all the other deer.
And we had gone into town before we had started hunting this deer and called my uncle, and I was sending him pictures of pins and drawing him diagrams of where these deer were and where they were going and trying to figure out the best way to hunt this spot. Because we were we're not messing this up. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. And so we probably talked to him on the phone for 45 minutes trying to figure out exactly what our plan was.
Which I think is a good thing too, especially when you're hunting a deer like that. It takes one screw up and that deer's not going to come back to that field, at least while we're there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was one of the best decisions we made, is to definitely get someone else on the phone too.
Someone who didn't have as much at stake.
Well, yeah. And who's kind of familiar with the area and everything. But.
Right.
So then we got in probably 2:30, 3 o'clock.
Yeah, it was 2:45. It was awful.
We got in plenty early, which I'm also would rather be early rather than late. Because I think I ended up having to make a trip back to the truck probably an hour later to get more water.
Yeah, I had too many layers on too, so I was like taking clothes off in the field. Um, I was, I had drank. We both brought one bottle of water. I drank my whole bottle of water, and Nate was like, "Well, just drink mine," and I was like, "No, you need water because it's like 78 degrees." And he's like, "No, I'm a camel." He's like, "I'll be fine." I was like, "No, you need water." He's like, "Well, do you want me to go back to the truck?" I was like, "Yeah, grab like 3 bottles of water." Or I said 3. And as he's walking away, I think I like held up. I was like, "Actually, get 5." And so he ends up bringing. Did you bring 4 or 5 back?
I don't remember. I only drink one.
I think it was 5. I ended up drinking 3 bottles of water. And
I probably should have.
Yeah, Nate drank his 1. I don't even know if you finished yours. And then we had 1 left. Poor guy. Made him walk back to the truck at like 3:30, 3:45.
So it was probably 5:30. And the funny thing about like West River, whether it's the Black Hills or anywhere, if you hear a car horn, usually there's deer next to the road. And so I think it was probably about 5:30 and we heard a
5.
5 maybe.
Yeah, because there was the honk, and I looked at you, and you were like, "Oh, it's too early."
Yeah, I was like, there's no way. But the funny thing is, the night before, when all the bucks were in the field, it was probably 10 degrees cooler.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking maybe that's why they were in the field so early. And then, like, if they were bedding that far away, that's why they had made it while it was daylight. So it was 10 degrees warmer. It was probably 75, 76 degrees at night. So I wasn't totally expecting them to make it to the field in daylight, but you never really know with mule deer either. So then heard the car horn, and then all of a sudden Catherine says there's 2 does, and this is probably 5:45, 6 o'clock, across the road, working their way to the alfalfa field. And then next thing you know, you hear a UTV going down the road, parked up on the hill next to my truck. So then we're looking kind of towards that. Next thing you know, the big buck's coming over the hill, which I didn't even realize it was a buck.
No,
I had to put my binos up, and I'm like, oh, it's him.
Nate goes, "I think it's a deer." Or he goes, "I think it's a buck." And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, "No, that's a buck." And I'm like 99% sure that that's the big one. Otherwise, I'm shooting it either way because this thing's big. And he puts his binos up, and he's like, "Yeah, that's the one." I was like, "Yeah, no, duh."
So yeah, I pull my binos up, and I see both flyers off the sides, which was kind of the dead giveaway for the deer. That and his frame, but the flyers were kind of the characteristics we recognized. And then, so the whole idea was Catherine was going to shoot, was it 40?
Yeah, 40 or less.
And then I was willing to shoot probably out to 70. And this buck was coming in perfectly down the fence line. And I had asked Catherine, I'm like, are you willing to take a frontal shot? Because at the rate it was coming, I thought for sure it was going to be a frontal 20 to 30 yard shot. And then one of the little bucks that he was with started to get a little skittish, which I don't know kind of what it was, if we were just sitting high enough above the grass or if he caught us moving or something. I thought we were pretty still, but
I don't have any idea what he saw.
Yeah, the little buck started getting skittish, and the big buck would feed and just kind of look at us, and I'm ranging, and I think the closest he got was 58. And then the little buck started feeding up the draw of the alfalfa field, and the big buck started to follow. And I remember, I think I asked Catherine probably 3 times. It's like, do I shoot it?
Yeah, and so at that point, I had already asked him. I was like, because when it's turned to start walking away, I was like, "Do you want to shoot it?" And he like just wouldn't answer. And I was like, "Do you want to shoot it?" And he like wouldn't say anything. I don't know. Maybe you didn't hear me, but I was like, do you want to shoot it? Like, do you think you should shoot it? And then he's like, "Should I shoot it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like shoot it." And he's like, "Should I shoot it?" I'm like, "Well, if you're like comfortable with the shot, shoot it." It's like, "Should I shoot it?" I'm like, "Dude, you're starting to stress me out, man. Like, stop asking me because you're making me think that you're like doubting it." And he just felt bad because he wanted to make sure I wasn't going to be mad at him for shooting it.
Yeah, I was more worried. I'm like, if I shoot this, like, what's going to happen to me? If I'm going to make it back?
Oh, whatever.
So then I think I ended up having you, because I had dialed down to my yardage at that point, and I think I was having you give me ranges.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I was going to have to stand up to shoot, and kind of heat of the moment, I think I stood up about as fast as I could.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't, like, get dizzy and fall over. You stood up so fast.
Yeah. And then I was drawn back at that point, and it was 67 yards, and I could hear Catherine next to me going, shoot it. Shoot it.
Shoot it.
Shoot it.
Shoot it. I swear he stood there at full draw with this deer staring right at us for like 5 minutes. It felt like forever. I was like, what the hell are you doing? Just shoot it already.
The funny thing is I finally shoot, and I felt like it was slow motion, like we were both just watching the arrow arc.
Yeah.
It was like taking forever just to get there. And as soon as it hit, we both thought it was a little far back. And I mean, deer was quartering away. So ideally you kind of want to place it a little far back. But, you know, the more I think about it, I think it's even farther back than probably what it should have been. So I was kind of...
Yeah, it looked like right when it hit, I go, oh, that's kind of far back. And then, well, Nate can say it, but I didn't have to worry about it for too long. But even in the pictures, everyone said that it looked far back, and kept telling Nate that he needs to work on his shot placement.
Yeah. So I was worried, so I grabbed my binos quick, and you could see he was bleeding pretty good and wasn't going to make it very far. And my next thing I did was threw my bow probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 yards in excitement. So we'll have to get that looked at. But,
yeah.
Funny thing is the thing drops probably, I don't know, probably made it 100 to 120 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Catherine and I hugged, and I've always been taught to, even with an archery kill, to give it 30 minutes, because you really never know. Next thing I know, Catherine's like, grab your stuff, let's go. And she's like beelining.
I'm like, come on, man. What are we waiting for?
Beelining right at this deer. I was like, at least let me knock an arrow. And she's heading like right towards the
You
nose
act
of
like
the
I
deer.
was running towards the thing. I was standing behind you. Whatever.
Maybe when we were 30 yards from the deer.
Okay. But
because I started walking to the side with an arrow knocked.
That's fine. To be fair, I could see it. It wasn't breathing. It wasn't moving.
No.
It was pretty dead. And again, I didn't really think about it being archery versus rifle. Like I shoot deer with my rifle. I've shot 2. I've killed 1 deer with my bow. So it's like you shoot it and then they fall over and they're dead.
Generally, yeah.
Except for Nate's.
Yeah, mine usually need a follow-up.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say at 67 yards, I probably put a better shot on that deer with my bow than I probably would have with a rifle.
Yeah, it's okay.
Probably.
We won't hold it against you.
You do, though.
Yeah, I do. That's okay, though.
So that was pretty much it for that night. Got it loaded up, caped out.
We ended up, this is, very important. Take care. If you've got private land that you can hunt, take care of your ranchers or your farmers or whoever's land it is. Because they're going to appreciate it more than you know. So we ended up leaving pretty much all of the deer meat except for 1 back strap, right?
Yep.
For them because they wanted it. And we deboned it and everything for them. They finished off like taking off the trim and silver skin and whatever else they want to do, but that is definitely important.
I think that's just important in this day and age too, because it's really hard to find ground to hunt on, especially out in that area. And I mean, the hospitality they gave to us all week, letting us hook the camper up and
Yeah, for sure.
all of that doesn't go unnoticed, came to help us load it, which really grateful for because I don't think we would have got it loaded with just us two.
No, it was a big deer.
So.
Yeah, that was great. They were awesome. Pretty much anything we asked, they were like, yep, we got you. And they figured it out. They got us permission on that ground. So very grateful for that. We also got to help them work cows for a little bit, which was kind of fun. That was Sunday during the day, which I grew up around cows. Like, we always had cows on our property, but they weren't our cows. It was cows that we leased out. So we would chase the cows and usually end up causing more issues than anything else. But it was fun to be able to kind of see that side of it as well. So, and Greg and I have talked a little bit about that before. Not necessarily like paying to be on people's land, but helping them out in other ways. They're going to appreciate it just as much.
Yeah.
Well, Nate, walk me through how you were feeling right before and after you took the shot. Like, what were the thoughts in your head?
I think
Did you have any thoughts in your head, or was it just blank?
It was actually fairly blank. I think it's weird. I've told a few people, I said I tend to shake quite a bit with deer. And for some reason, like on the shot, that was probably the steadiest I think I've ever been, which is weird. Don't know why that is, because I even shot a pretty nice whitetail 3 years ago. I was shaking like a leaf on that one. So I don't know why it was, but that was actually probably the calmest I've been on a shot. After, I think I was on cloud nine for probably 2 or 3 days. Borderline heat stroke the following day.
2 or 3 days. You're still on cloud nine.
Yeah, I still am.
Dude, you walked out of the back room after hearing the score, and you were giggling like a little schoolgirl.
Yeah, that was it was also, and it hasn't been officially scored, so don't quite know. Haven't really decided if I'm going to get it officially scored yet. Probably will. Like, I always feel like the 200 mark is kind of this thing deer hunters always dream of, let alone seeing one on hoof. So we'll see.
Yeah. So unofficially, it scored 208. Nate said he scored it tonight at home and scored it under 200. So I will be interested to see what a certified scorer says it is.
Yeah.
Nate's been short on pretty much every deer, though, that he scored of mine. So I feel like Nate's doing something wrong.
I must be. I don't know.
He's forgetting a measurement somewhere because he's like a couple inches off every time.
Well, I was 8 inches short on yours, and I was 10 inches short on this one. So yeah, I'm doing something wrong somewhere.
If you could have done anything differently with that specific hunt, it worked out, so it's hard to say that you would have done something different. But if you could have changed how we set it up or walked in or anything like that, what would you have done?
I don't think I really would change anything. Considering where they were feeding the night before and the wind we had that night and the access we had, I think the way we set up was by far probably the best that we could have done. I think we probably could have been a little bit closer, but then you're kind of playing with the wind a little bit too, depending on where they came into the field. Because if they came into the field a little south of you, you were in trouble. So I think we kind of set up more foolproof than anything.
Mm-hmm.
At least for their access and where we were set up, our wind was at least going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
Can't control on where they necessarily feed in the field, but you can control where your wind's blowing. So,
what did you take away from that experience? What did you learn about mule deer hunting? That you can't spot and stalk them, you just have to hunt them like whitetails?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, I've been hunting mule deer now for 5 years. I've covered a lot of miles. I've seen a few really good deer. But I think the big thing with mule deer hunting is, I mean, finding their territory for one, but all it takes is really finding a good deer that you want to chase. But I think the funny thing is, I've talked to a lot of people and I said, how often does it actually work out to locate a deer of that caliber and kill it
Shoot
the
it the next day? Yeah.
Like, that just doesn't happen, and I don't expect it to happen.
I do. I have high expectations now.
Yeah, I've done it enough where I kind of know that's not how it works, and let alone get them to bed.
For anyone who's listening to that, that was a joke.
Yeah. I mean, even we're this big but bedded, even if we did have access to that ground, we wouldn't have been able to chase them with the wind. So I don't know. I think part of it is being patient too. We could have tried to do something that morning knowing they were in the field and we would have busted them out of there. So we kind of took a chance that they were going to come back that evening. And so I think part of it is mule deer hunting too. It's just being patient.
Yeah. Which I am not good at being patient. So it's good for me to have someone who's able to tell me that, Catherine, that's not going to work. It's a waste of time, which I heard multiple times this trip. It's going to be a waste of time. Don't do it.
Chasing antelope mile out in a flat field.
It's like, we could try. We could try. He's like, it's not going to work. It's a waste of time. Like, I just want to do something. I'm bored.
I get it. That was the hard part, is because some of those days we were kind of driving around. And I think some of those goats, if we had a better wind.
If we had a rifle, we could have shot one.
Oh, yeah. We could have filled easily with rifle. You could have filled easily with rifle. I still would have had to probably really work for it.
Yeah, Nate would have had to take 2 or 3 shots.
But then I think that's kind of the interesting thing about goats is relatively they're in flat terrain.
Yeah, it was tough.
So then, yeah, if you don't have a great wind either, you might walk a half mile and get within a half mile and they're going to run.
I mean, going back to your deer for a second, we'll talk about antelope. What do you think, like, was there any emotional effect on you that you had? Yeah, I'll let you take that question how you want.
I don't know. I think it's from a standpoint of, let alone hunting a big deer like that, but harvesting one. I don't know. I haven't really found the right words. I would think I would go my whole life without harvesting a deer like that. Like, I'm perfectly happy with a 150, 160. Just not a lot of people get the opportunity to take a deer like that. So, I'm really grateful to be in the position that I was to be able to take it. I don't know. It's kind of like a motivation thing too. I don't know. It's kind of weird to say I lose a little motivation because it's like you hit that tier. So what's there to beat it necessarily?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the hard thing.
That's fine. I'll just shoot all the deer from here on out. Works for me.
Yeah. I could not shoot a deer the rest of my life and be satisfied, I guess.
That is bull crap, and you and I both know that.
No, I think
you'd go like a year without hunting, and you'd be like, all right, I need to do something because this sucks.
Yeah, I know. I just enjoy being out in the woods, though, too. I'm not always necessarily in it for the harvesting aspect. I like to just get away and sit in a tree. Or sit on a hill and glass for 3 hours. I know Catherine hates it, but
God.
I really enjoy it.
I have too many. Nate, we've talked about this before, because I'll be like, what are you thinking about? Like every girl does. And Nate's like, nothing. I'm like, that's not true. And he's like, yeah, like I'm not thinking about anything. I'm like, I don't know how that's possible. I go like so stir crazy because I'll sit there and think about every situation and scenario possible. And then I just like get in my own head and I'm like, all right, I got to go do something now, because if I sit here any longer, I'm going to go crazy. That's even when I'm in the tree stand, like I play solitaire, because it just makes me not have to think.
Yeah, I just enjoy being out in the tree or on a hill glass, and I don't know, I've just always preferred that scenery over a computer, so.
Well, yeah, I would take that over a computer anytime, but I also got to be doing something. I got to do something. I can't just sit there forever. And I think I talked about it with Greg and Juliana on one of our podcasts, that it's something that I would like to be better at. And I think part of it's just because we're so bombarded with stuff all the time that it's weird to like not have that constant stimulation.
Yeah.
Back to antelope hunting. What's something that surprised you that you weren't expecting?
How skittish they were.
Yeah, it was so tough.
Which I had kind of knew going in they were going to be skittish, but not that skittish.
Yeah, like you'd get within 600 yards of them and they'd see you and be gone.
We were also probably a week too late.
Yeah, it was like one buck with 5 to 10 does usually. So there was tons of eyes, and the bucks just weren't aggressive because they were already with their does. But I did shoot at one antelope at 81 yards and missed. It was 25-mile-an-hour winds. My up and down was perfect. I just didn't factor in the wind and ended up missing by like 2 inches. But I've thought about it more. I was so mad because this antelope did not move. So I had like missed basically a 3D target at that point because it did not move. But I was talking to someone. I don't know who it was. I was talking to someone and then I was like, yeah, if I would have just aimed for back long, like I would have hit it. And they were like, yeah, but that antelope also could have like ran forward. And then if you aim for back long, like you would have missed it to the back. So there's not really any way for you to have known where it was going to go or what it was going to do. So I was like, that does make me feel a little bit better. But
and that's the thing with antelope too, is you never really know what they're going to do. They like there's some that could be like ducking and running away by the time the arrow gets there.
Right. So that was humbling, but then I shot a badger at 45 yards and smoked it, so that upped my confidence level a little bit.
Absolutely smoked it.
Yeah, drilled it. It was pretty cool. This is the highlight of my week. What's something that you would try for antelope hunting that we like either didn't have time to try or just didn't do to try to actually be successful next time?
Find a water hole and put a blind on it.
Yeah, sit and be patient, which is not my favorite thing in the world.
No, but I think if there was water where we were, like we would have been fine. Because we had the blind and everything along, but there was just no water, so it made it tough.
Mm-hmm. We talked about this on the last one of the podcasts that you were on, but just how like us hunting together has probably strengthened our relationship. But then also just when you're spending so much time with that other person in a setting outside of like normal life, I think you get to see a different side of them as well. And we didn't have Go ahead, sorry.
I think that was probably our best trip. I think we're getting used to it by now.
Yeah, we're figuring it out. We took our fireball shots and Nate got super dehydrated, and then the last 2 days are kind of hit and miss.
They were borderline possibly taking a trip in.
Yeah, I thought he was going to need a IV. So, yeah, that was That was interesting. The last day it was 93 or something. And I was like, well, we're leaving, so I might as well try to put one more stock on some antelope. And there's antelope. Well, I don't know. There are 9 of them with $1. Actually, yeah. I think there's $2 at that point.
$2.
$2. And there was 8 or 9 does or something. And these antelope are, like 3,000 yards away. I'm just throwing out numbers, so I could be way off. And so I like start walking up this road, and my whole plan, they're up on like the top of this field, clear view, no trees. Like there's a fence line. That's like the only cover that there is. I was like, my plan is to walk straight at them with this decoy that hasn't worked for us all week. They've spooked at the decoy pretty much every time. It's like, I'm just going to walk straight at them and it's going to work. And I think I got to like 1,500 yards and they all got up and left. I was like, well, it's 93 degrees. I'm kind of happy that I didn't have to walk the rest of the way and that I didn't have to clean an antelope and try to get it on ice when it's this hot outside. It was so hot.
I think your yardages might be a little off. Is it 1,760 yards a mile?
Is it?
I think so.
My yardages are probably way out. How many miles?
They were like at maybe a half mile from the road.
I'm not very good at distances. How many miles are in a yard?
1,760.
Oh, wait. I meant how many yards are in a mile, not how many miles are in a yard. Are you sure on that? Are you like...
I'm almost positive 5,280
you're right.
feet in a mile.
You're totally right. Okay, I was probably like 700 yards away from them when they ran. Maybe 600. No, they had to have been at least 600 or 700. Because when I came up over the hill on the antelope that I shot at, didn't I tell you that it was 600 yards away the night before when we sneaked up on them?
You told me 6.
Because that's what my rangefinder said. So they were farther than where that one was. But that was cool. That antelope ran in from 600 yards away to 80 yards.
Yeah, that's the funny thing with antelope that we figured out is they get intrigued by one little thing and they'll come in closer.
I think maybe my rangefinder's broken.
I think it might be.
Yeah, because I can't imagine that was actually 600 yards away. It had to have been like 300.
Because I'm pretty sure they have a half-mile fence, and you were
I should get that looked at. I've had so many issues with that rangefinder, though, so it wouldn't surprise me if it was something wrong with the rangefinder.
I think that day you did shoot at the goat, though, was that Wednesday. You were telling me to stay back, and I was like, no, I'm going to come with.
Yeah, I was like, no, just stay. I was like, I'll go by myself. He's like, no, I'll come. I was like, no, like, seriously, stay here.
So I was just following behind her. She's stalking this antelope, carrying 2 bottles of water, just drinking water the whole time.
It's a good thing he was there, too, because I had this whole plan. I was like, I'm going to follow this ravine all the way into the field, and then I'll pop up over the ravine, and they should be, like, 60 yards from me. And we are walking this ravine, and Nate's like, what's your plan here? And I was like, this is my plan. This is going to work. Like, I've got it all figured out. My wind's good. And he's like, dude, this ravine does not go through that field. It's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, no, it doesn't even, like, go near the field. There's one little edge where it, like, butts up to the fence. And I thought this ravine went straight through the field. So I probably would have gotten, like, all the way down this ravine and like popped up and been like, where are the antelope? And they're 600 yards behind me.
Probably would have followed it through 3 properties and been so confused.
Yeah, probably. It's like, where's the field? It should be around here. It worked out though, kind of.
You got a shot.
Worked out. I did shoot. If it wasn't windy, it would have been a dead antelope.
For sure.
Still kind of mad about that, but whatever. It's my bad. 81 yards. It's a hard shot. I'm going to just keep telling myself that. So, yeah, that was our trip. We're going to go back out next year.
It's a plan.
Maybe for rifle.
So maybe draw rifle antelope tags. I don't know if I have enough points. You probably do, though.
Rifle antelope?
Yeah.
Ooh, I think I only have like 2 points, maybe 3.
You might be able to draw that.
Oh, really?
I think it takes 3.
Oh, I thought it took like 5 or 6.
Well, special probably does.
Well, maybe that's what I was thinking of. I should have enough for like a rifle buck take, though.
Yeah.
We'll see, though. Maybe I want to save them up. I don't know why I would. We'll see how much we've got going on next year. Maybe I'll apply for my elk tag next year.
Elk tag?
Yeah.
You want to put in for a bowl?
Yeah, might as well.
So,
People start drawing them after like 5 years.
Yeah, I've been putting in for 6 years straight.
I've never actually applied. I've just bought points.
Oh, then you'd probably draw. Luck out drawing your first time applying.
I don't know. I am like one of the most unlucky people ever, but I had like the biggest luck ever a couple weeks ago. So I feel like I just got to keep riding this train.
So you probably won one of the best raffles of your life. So
yeah, I don't know. I've never even won bingo. Maybe once I've won bingo. I just am not lucky. I don't win things like that. And I ended up winning a camera. So that was pretty sweet.
Your dream camera.
Yeah, my dream camera. Problem is now I have to buy my dream lens, and my dream lens is like $2,000. So if anyone wants to buy me a camera lens, feel free.
That's crazy. Camera's more expensive than optics.
Well, it's kind of the same thing. It's an optic, but it has electric focus, image stabilization. Not electric, but you know what I mean. Electronic focus.
Yeah.
Like image stabilization plus all the other things. It makes sense. For good glass. The lens I probably will get is not going to be that expensive. It's not even going to be like half of that. But, all right. Well, that's really all I have for you guys today. If you have any questions about Nate's deer, you can ask him. He likes to talk about it, so. I will make sure to post a picture of it as well. So, honestly, a lot of you who are listening to this probably are listening to it because you saw our Instagram and Facebook reminder that we posted. If not, you should go follow our Instagram and Facebook, and then also just check out our website for updates and check out Unbroken and Brave Foundation for all of the fun things that we will be doing there in the future. So that's my little plug. But Nate, you have any last words you'd like to say?
No, I don't think so.
No, perfect. Well, thanks for doing this with me at 10:30 at night. I should be in bed right now, but instead I'm laying on my floor talking into a microphone. As always, guys, if you or someone you know is thinking of suicide or in need of crisis intervention, please call the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988. You have to remember that the world is a better place with you in it. To all of our listeners, take some time to get outside, enjoy the outdoors, and experience its healing powers. With that, on behalf of Greg, who I know is thinking about all of you guys, Nate, and myself, until next time.